welcome back to my channel here. I am going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to go OG and I'm going to go through everything that I have knit so far this year, or hopefully. Elvis is driving me nuts, so if he suddenly shows up, that's why, because he still can't figure out that I'm not talking to him right now. So I'm trying to light my house. You know my house is dark. I hate my dark house. I mean, I don't hate my house. I hate the fact that it's dark and there's just no way to light it up. So I have got artificial lighting on here. Hopefully it is good enough and I can tweak it a little bit in the editing software. I am using a microphone today. Hopefully that means I can get rid of a lot of the background noise, like the stupid refrigerator that we have to keep in our lounge room, because we got given a fridge that was far too big for any house that we have ever lived in and we can't afford to replace it. So it is in my lounge room, or my dining. It's supposed to be my dining room, but the fridge is there instead. Okay, so sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, so if I sound a bit crap and maybe a cough and there's weird breaks, I'll try and edit the coughs out. But yeah, I've been quite unwell for the last couple weeks, so you'll have to forgive me. But yes, I've done quite a bit of knitting, not as much as I'd actually hoped. I haven't got as much out of my stash as I had hoped. I haven't got some of the projects that I have here to show you plugged into my spreadsheet yet, but I will do that a little bit later, and I'll put in like a screen capture so you can see what my current running total is. First, a drink, because my throat is getting dry already. Hopefully I can make this short and sweet because I don't know that my throat is going to last. What to start with? I have plenty of socks. I have to say I am missing one pair, however. It was the pair that I knit in that short that I made on my pass-up knitting machine. The pair of socks, they were for my husband Simon. Once they were off the machine and I had seamed them, they went straight to him and he has worn them. They're probably in the wash basket upstairs because I don't tend to wash my socks every week. I just let them pile up a little bit until I've got enough to soak them and wash them, because we have so many pairs of socks. Or at least I do. I probably have at least 2 pairs of socks per day of the month, so I don't need to wash them quite that often. So maybe I'll start with the socks. Right, so I have multiple pairs of finished socks and I have a pair of socks currently on the needles. So I believe these were the first ones that were done this year. This is my own hand-dyed yarn. This is Lovebird Lane Yarns. This colourway is called Frozen Brackets Dark, and these are a pair of Tin Can Knits Rye Light socks. It has like this garter stitch sort of section in the socks. So I have not worn these. They have been blocked. They were put on my sock blockers. And I have not worn them because I've been holding them aside so that I could show you guys. And it's only taken me how many months to show you. These were, I think, were the first pair of socks that I finished this year. I think they potentially were a whip. Let me check my spreadsheet. Yeah, I cast these on New Year's Eve. So they are technically a whip that came into 2024 with me. But these were very quick to get finished, I think. Not really. 18 days it took me to knit this pair of socks. So that is the first one, and I used 286 yards used in this pair, which is 262 meters. Now these ones have not been put into my spreadsheet. They are another pair of Rye Light, so these ones haven't been blocked, so you can see they're a little bit more squidgy than the other pair. And these were knit from some Bendigo woolen mills. These are kind of the sister socks to the fruit punch socks that you have already seen, which I also need to speak about. Yeah, these are both Bendigo woolen mills multicolored sock yarn. And as I said, these are a pair of Rye Light. I have not weighed how much these are so that I can tote that up, but I will do that and show you guys at the end when I show you my spreadsheet. So those were my pair, because they're pink, obviously, so the pink pair goes to me. And then these were just a pair of vanilla socks that I knit. I knit these by hand. The reason I distinguish that is because I've got a pair of machine knit socks coming up, and obviously those ones that I mentioned for Simon were machine knit. These ones were hand knit. You would have seen me knitting on these in my how much can I knit in a day, I think it was, video from a few weeks back, or probably a couple of months back now. That's another pair, and I have got that in my spreadsheet. I do have that in my spreadsheet. So these only took me 5 days to knit. 18th of January to the 23rd of January. So they were very quick. And I used 320 yards or 293 meters. Another pair of socks. So these ones are machine knit. And this is some quite deep stash, and this also is not in my spreadsheet as yet. This is some Berger de France Goomy 50 yarn. And it's like this sort of self-striping yarn, I guess you would call it. Self-patterning yarn. And I knit these on my Passat knitting machine, that same one that I knit Simon's socks on. These were actually a test pair that I knit to see if I could figure it out how to knit socks on that machine. So these are a very, very close approximation of my gauge for hand knitting. So that was what I was intending to do. These are knit in the round on the machine. The only part that's knit flat is the cuff. You can just see the seam there where I've mattress stitched it together. You can't really see it that much on the outside, apart from the fact that it makes the rib irregular. I need to sort of figure out a way to do that, because these I did as a 2x2 rib, which obviously when you go to seam it together, you start with knit stitches on one end and you have purl stitches on the other end, and then when you seam it you end up with just one strip of each. So I think if I'm going to do 2x2 rib on socks again, I'm going to have to sort of figure out how I can fudge it, that I have 2 knits on one end, 2 knits on the other end, so I can seam it and have, you know, everything work out. But the Passats, this is a complete tangent, but the Passats have what they call a needle rule. So you're technically supposed to have the first needle of your knitting on the front bed, and you have the last needle of your knitting on the back bed. And in order to have the 2 end stitches the same, they would need to be on the same bed, either both on the back or both on the front. So I think to do a 2x2 rib, I would need to break the needle rule in knitting socks, just so I had a decent, like on full garment pieces you could probably just about fudge it, but on a pair of socks I'm not really sure how I would quite figure that out. But that's a story and a lesson for another day. I have knit these socks again. I will add them to my spreadsheet and show you guys at the end my sum total of how much yardage I have used this year. And these are my whip socks. So they have not been blocked, obviously. That has a spare piece of yarn hanging off it. These are called the mountain socks. And it's this pattern is described as a seersucker pattern. It's quite interesting, actually. I know what seersucker is in the form of fabric. And I guess it gives that sort of effect. It's kind of the seersucker is, I feel like, a little bit more regular, more up and down rather than diagonal, but I mean, it doesn't really bother me. It was just a cute sock pattern. So I have obviously one sock done. I am on the foot for my second sock, and I don't know if this color is showing up properly in this light, because I know my light is not good. It looks a bit brown. It's actually a really nice dusky pink. Like, I find I kind of keep looking at it like it's the most perfect sort of pink that I love, that real dusky pink. And this is some stash that I had from Spotlight. It was called the Florentine collection, I think. And it's just a basic sock wool. It's quite rustic feeling. It's not the softest wool, which is fine. I don't mind that for socks at all. I mean, I'd wear that as a sweater as well. I'm not desperately itchy when it comes to wool. Alpaca, on the other hand, is completely different ball game. That makes me itch like crazy, but wool, not usually. So yeah, I am probably going to get onto these again tonight, because I haven't knit on these for quite a while, because I have been working on a bunch of other things. But yeah, these are probably going to be the next project that I finish. Obviously I haven't counted yardage yet because I am still going. It's still a whip, so that is what I'll be knitting on a bit later tonight. And I have 2 things that I have made for Elvis. One is finished, one still needs some work, and I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go with it just yet. But I will pull it out. So that looks like a dog sweater, right? I'll try and get this out because I find machine knitting tends to have lots of threads all over the shop. All right, so this is a dog sweater. You can probably just about make it out. So I can't really get the yardage for this one because it's one of the cones that I got in that yarn stash from the lady that I bought my knitting machine from. So I believe this is probably just some acrylic. I did do a burn test, I think, on this one. I'm pretty sure I did. But anyway, this is a machine knitting kind of conversion of the sweater that I usually knit for Elvis. So I'll grab this one. He has worn this, so there might be some dog hair all over it. But this is one I hand knit him recently. It still needs a block, so it's sort of rolling up on the bottom instead of laying flat. I'm hoping to get this washed and a couple of other things that I've got to show you washed after I finish this video. But yeah, it's just basic dog sweater. It has kind of a turtleneck. It's got this ribbed portion underneath. Got little legs, and then it just kind of sits over his back. So this is the same sort of patterns that if you have been watching for a long time, that's exactly the same pattern that I used to knit for Granger. Elvis has been wearing Granger's sweaters. He's one of Granger's old sweaters. It's got holes in it, so obviously I needed to give Elvis his own sweater because he was wearing Granger's. I might frog that because it's got too many holes in it to bother trying to darn them all, and I don't even know if I have any of that yarn left, so I thought I might frog that and re-knit it into another sweater. Thankfully, I think that one also, this is non-superwash, I believe that is too. This is actually some hand dyed that I dyed especially. It was going to be a sweater for Granger but never got done in time, unfortunately, but I guess Elvis gets to be the beneficiary. So this was some yarn I found when I did my sorting of the 2 boxes a couple of weeks ago. I found this, I dug it out, and I have knit it. I don't think it's on my spreadsheet. My computer's gone to sleep. Give me a second. Oh, no, it is. It is on my spreadsheet. So I cast this on the 25th of April, and I finished it on the 1st of May. And it used 497 yards or 454 meters. Oh, excuse me, my throat is not being happy with me right now. This is my Highland base, I believe. It was a Highland worsted that I used to get in non-superwash. And it is in my colourway Fireheart, but without speckles, because Fireheart usually has like a chartreuse speckle over the top. So this is the one that I have machine knit so far. I did this also on my pass-up machine, because it's easy, because it's a fixed double bed. It's a lot easier to do your ribbing, because you basically don't have to set up 2 separate parts of a machine. It's just all there ready to go. So I've mostly been working on my pass up also because it is set up on a stand under my stairs, so it's a lot easier for me to get to. I actually haven't been using it recently because it's getting really stiff, and I knew when I got it that it hadn't been used for a while and it really needed a clean and an oil, and I didn't do that, and I just started using it. So I've told myself, no, you cannot use it until you get some white spirit and you get some sewing machine oil and you give it a good clean and an oil, and then you can use it again. So it's just sitting there for the moment. But yeah, this is basically a conversion of the same pattern just for a smaller gauge, because the pass-up works is happiest using a sort of a light fingering weight and down. So yeah, the thing that's holding me up is I need to knit a bottom ribbing section, and I put the 2 flat pieces on hold, but this section here, I don't know how to get it back on the machine. So basically for the neckline, which will be a fold over neckline, I popped it back on the machine. So I had waste yarn when I started the body piece and the under panel piece. And then I just rehooked those live stitches, took the waste yarn off, knit the ribbed neckline, because that's ribbing, and it was all cast off, and then it was all done. But I haven't done anything like putting, like, obviously I can put this back on the machine easily and this part back on the machine easily, but what do I do? Like, can I put this slanty bit back on? I don't know. So I've kind of been dragging my feet a little bit, and I haven't seamed it up because the ribbing needs to be done flat. You can't do ribbing in the round. But I have my other leg ready to go because I've put one sleeve on and I have my other one ready to go. So maybe once I have oiled and cleaned and oiled my machine, I might try putting that bottom edge on. If not, I'm going to have to see if I have like a really fine hand knit needle and do a whole bunch of ribbing in fine hand knit, which I don't like the idea of. But one way or another, I will get this sweater finished for Elvis. All right, now I have a few sweaters, I believe, and a cardigan type thing. Maybe I'll start with I'll just go through the pile as it is here. So a lot of you have seen photos of this one on my Instagram. So this is what is it called? I've completely forgotten what it's called. Fleetwood Sweater. And this is by Tanis Laveley. She's Tanis Fiber Arts anyway. And she has a sister pattern to this called the Jethro, and I really want to make that too with my leftovers of these crochet squares. So basically this took quite a bit out of my stash because this sort of bluey grey colour, this was some Bendigo woolen mills that I had in my stash for quite a while. I believe it is their luxury 8-ply because their yarns are a little bit more plump than what you would normally expect for like an 8-ply, 4-ply, whatever. So the pattern, I believe, calls for DK weight squares, worsted weight body yarn. So I figured because the 8-ply is that little bit more plump, it would be a nice stand-in for worsted weight. So these squares, make sure that you're able to see them. These are all crocheted from my hand-dyed yarn. So I just kind of went to my shop and raided all of the DK that I had in the shop. I haven't woven in all the crochet square ends. I have seen a tutorial that I'll need to look up again where you can weave in the ends as you go. So I think if I make the Jethro, that is what I'm going to do, because these crochet ends have been driving me nuts because I looked up the proper protocol to actually weave them in properly. And it's a lot more involved than I have ever done with any of my crochet ends. So I'm like, oh my gosh, everything that I've crocheted is just going to come undone because I have not been diligent with weaving in my ends. So for this, I have been a bit more diligent at weaving in my ends. But this was such a cool pattern. It was really, really fun. So basically you crochet your squares first, you join them together. So I used a join as you go method, which was super cool. And then you just basically pick up the stitches on the sides and then top and bottom. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this. I smashed through this pretty quickly, I think. Let's have a look. It took me just over a month to knit this, or knit and crochet this. I started on the 5th of May and I finished 5th of March, and I finished it on the 8th of April. So this one still hasn't been photographed for the Instagrams, but I really need to do that because I'm really proud of this one. I really love it. Like I said, I'm really tempted to cast on the Jethro now. That remains to be seen. And I only counted yardage for this for the Bendigo woolen mills, the main colour, because that was the only part that came from stash. Everything else was raided from my shop, so that was new to the stash. And if I make the Jethro, I'll probably end up using all of the leftovers or pretty close to. So yeah, that might need to go onto the to knit list this year, so that will crochet mostly. Jethro is mostly crochet, to get that so it doesn't end up in my stash because it's still out and about. So after finishing this project, but I really love this. Is a big rolled and seamed neckline. It's so squishy and I can't wait to wear this, but I haven't worn it yet because of those ends that I'm procrastinating on. I don't want to do it. I don't want to weave in all those ends. Okay, next I have a couple of machine knit items, and these are both from stash that came with my machines. So I'll go through these really quickly. This first one is a Cocoon Cardigan. So it basically has little sleeve holes. So you can see there, and it just kind of drapes. It's probably not really big enough for me, but basically it was what is the name of this shape? It was angled on the bottom, go straight, and then angled the opposite, like so. It made kind of a square on its side that had kind of been squished over. I don't know what that is. Geometry was never my thing. And then it just gets mattress stitched in the centre back and on the sides here, so up to the arm. Part of this ribbing, so it has ribbing on the very bottom edges. You might be able to see it's a bit fine gauge, but that ribbing, one panel, that's the word. One panel I actually reformed the stitches, so I did it all by hand, and the other panel I knit after I had figured out how to work my ribber. So I just basically did the ribbing on my ribber. It was a lot easier than doing it reform stitches by hand, I have to say. And this was knit on my Empasol machine, not the Pass Up, because I didn't actually have the Pass Up at that point. But yeah, it's basically a cocoon type cardigan, shrug shoulders. I don't know what's going to happen to this one. Might end up with my mother-in-law. She likes purple. This is kind of a burgundy verging on purple. So we'll see what happens. Perhaps my sister-in-law's stepdaughters, maybe one of them might like it as well. So the next one is a sweater, and I purposely made it quite long. Honestly, I don't love the colour. It was more as a practice, and unfortunately it's probably not going to be able to be worn because the pattern that I used, I didn't realise it didn't include, ease. So I made these cuffs basically exactly the width of my wrist. So I can get my hand through, but it's very tight around my wrists. It doesn't cut off circulation or anything like that. I mean, it is knitted fabric still. But it did come out quite a bit bigger than expected. I don't know if I did my gauge swatch wrong or what. I don't know if I did my gauge swatch wrong or what happened, but it's a very strangely sized sweater. Potentially it might be okay just for wearing around the house, but I kind of hate the colour. So I might over dye this. Maybe I'll just put it in a vat of black dye and see what happens. I did a burn test on this. I did a short on, or a reel on Instagram where I did a burn test of this yarn, and I believe it is like a wool synthetic blend because it had been attacked by moths as well, so there was a lot of breaks in this cone, so I believe it has got some sort of wool in it. So yeah, maybe I'll over dye it in black and we will see what happens, because acid dyes will dye acrylic, I believe. They definitely dye nylon, so hopefully I can get just a black sweater, because it's going to end up being like a sweater dress that I would wear over the top of something else. So this was, like I mentioned, it was knit from a spreadsheet that I got from a YouTube channel. I can't remember any of the names right now. Maybe I'll link to the channel up in the doobly-doo and I'll try and find a link. I think I had to sign up to her email to be able to get the pattern, but I don't know how many of you are machine knitters, so it may not be of any use to you, but I'll do it anyway. But yes, so that was from some of that stash that I got with my machines. I'm going to try and crack on through the rest of this to try and get this done as quickly as possible. So I finished my Maybe Queen. So if you've been with me for a while, you would have seen me knitting on this. I'm pretty sure it took me almost exactly 2 years. I know, just over a year. So I started this on the 6th of February last year, and I finished it on the 27th of February this year. So this was reusing some yarn that I had knit into a pomme de pin that I never finished, and I just frogged it because I thought I'm never going to finish that. By that point, I didn't like purple anymore. So I found this pattern, and it's going to go to someone I know. It's not for me. This was out of some very early dye efforts from myself. And it's just some Knit Picks Stroll Sport, I believe it was. It's a very interesting pattern. It's got this really cool sort of rib sections. It's got like a garter stitch panel here on the side. There's like a little, I guess like a flower, and like ribbed section, and it's got like a princess kind of, it's longer at the top than it is at the bottom. So this was actually really fun to knit. This was a real fun pattern. It took me a really long time to knit it, but it was very fun to knit, and I'm really glad that it's finished. So that ended up taking 1,439 yards or 1,316 meters out of the stash. So I was pleased to get that done. It can be gifted onto its new recipient, and it's out of my stash. It's out of my hair. Finally, I have 2 projects out of the same yarn. One is an update for another pattern, a project that I'd already finished, and one is a new pattern. So I'll show you the one that I had already finished. This is one that used to be a cardigan. If you've been here a while, you'll have known the saga of this. It used to be a cardigan. I didn't get anywhere out of the cardigan. Plus it was a bit tight for me. It didn't really fit me very well. So I decided to frog the cardigan and knit the matching sweater. So this is the throwover. The cardigan was the throwback. This is the throwover. It's by Andrea Mowry. And as you can see, it is a circular colour work yoke. And this is some wool of the Andes worsted that I had. I purchased it specifically for this cardigan project, which I've turned into a sweater project. And basically I knit this, and it wasn't long enough. I finished this on the 1st of May last year. 1st of May this year, I pulled it out. I pulled the whole bottom out. So basically, you can see it's like real dodgy. Like the stitches are real dodgy because it's re-knit yarn. So this has already been, it was all re-knit yarn anyway, but this has been blocked. This has not. So you can see from here where this looks dodgy and that looks nice and neat, that is where I have re-knit from. So basically I ripped back the ribbing that was already there, put it back on the needle, knit 3 inches of extra length, and added the ribbing back on. So this is much better. I do have a very long body, and I still haven't really figured out how to wear crop sweaters. I just basically went back, added some more length, and yeah, this just needs a wash now so that I can neaten up all those stitches so it doesn't look quite so obvious that something has happened there. And I did not count the extra yarn that I put onto here because I sort of thought, well, what's really the point? Because it's not a new, maybe I should, because it's not a new project. It was just an update to an existing project, but maybe I'll go back and figure that out, because I have basically finished this yarn. It's basically out of my stash, so I'll talk about that next. Okay, so this is what I have left. I only have about 5 grams ish of each yarn left. So I did that intentionally so that if I needed to repair the throwover, I would have a little bit of yarn left so that I could do that. So this is going to go back into my stash, but as far as Ravelry and all that kind of thing, it's going to be all used up because it's basically repair stash that I want to keep. And the other thing that I made was a poncho. So I kind of wanted to make some sort of colourwork, something out of what was left, because I had approximately 800 yards left, and I used 771 yards or 705 meters in this poncho. So this still needs a block. I literally took it off the needles last night, so that's why the garter stitch edging is all like wrapping itself up. So it's basically a turtleneck poncho. The pattern pictures show that you can wear it either with the increases over your shoulders or down your center front. Big turtleneck collar, and I just kind of made up the stripe sequence as I went. So these were thicker stripes. As I got towards the end, obviously the rows were getting longer and longer, or the rounds. So I kind of played with the pattern and just put this thinner stripes here. So yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I hope that it will fit me. It does need a wash so it'll block and relax a little bit. But yeah, that is everything, I think. That is me fully caught up on everything that I have knit this year, I believe. So I hope you enjoyed. I don't know. I hope that I have inspired you guys to get through your stash, maybe. I have a long way to go. I was recording a video this week that I was hoping to get up, but it's going to take me a lot longer to actually create the video and all that kind of stuff, because I've got the first 2 steps of what I needed to do done, but now I'm on to the 3rd step, and that has taken me quite a long time, and I'm beginning to wonder whether I want to just abandon it. But that's a whole nother video for another day. I have been talking for a very long time. I think I'm getting on for 40 minutes now. So I think I'm going to give my throat a rest. It has been absolutely hammered over the last couple of weeks, with a sore throat and then a cough as everything is evacuating my body after being quite sick. So I think I'm going to leave it there. If you would like to support my channel, there are 3 ways you can do that. You can give me a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel. That would be really fabulous. I made it to 1,000 subscribers and I'm so excited. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed so far. If you are watching and you are not subscribed and you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button. And the 3rd way is I have a link down in my description for Buy Me a Coffee if you'd like to give me a little bit of a tip, just to help me get some stuff for the channel. I really want to, like I said, I think in my other video, I'd like to get a little lapel mic. So that's what I'm saving up for at the moment. So if you want to put chuck me a little bit of money to help me do that, that would be very much appreciated. You can find that in the description. All my links to my socials are down there as well, my personal and my business Instagram. So if you're interested in my yarns, obviously that's there too. If you are interested in an advent calendar, I currently have my advent calendars on sale. They will be closing in probably a week. So if you're looking for a yarn advent calendar this year, head over, have a look at my shop. I think the link for that is also in the description. But I think that's it for now. I would just like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you are inspired to use some of your stash. And yeah, please let me know in the comments what you are making and what you'd like me to show you, if there is anything. Do you want to see more knitting machine videos? I may have something coming down the pipeline that I'm going to show you next week, but we will see how that goes. For now, all I can do is wish you happy knitting and happy crafting, and to say I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye.